Is pornography bad for your relationship? Hey, I'm Jeff Scott, and I want to welcome you to the Love and Sex podcast. During this show, we are going to discuss everything relating to sex and relationships. No topic is out of bounds, and we are going to keep things honest and real. While I'm not a doctor, I'm going to share my experiences, mistakes, and successes to help you live your best life. You're listening to the Love and Sex podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Scott, and along with me is Allison. Allison, welcome to today's show.
Thanks. Hey, everyone.
So we want to talk about an interesting topic today, but before we do, quick few notes here. Don't forget to head down to the show notes where you can join the Love and Sex Facebook group. And don't forget to use the link to head over to Amazon to pick up your book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. Great book for improving your communication and your overall relationship with your partner. Highly recommend it. Also, there's links in there for Pink Cherry. So this is a site that sells different sex toys and different relationship type of products. Time to spice things up. And these links are specials that I get to offer you through Pink Cherry. There's no extra cost or fees to you to use those, I should say. But certainly it helps to support the show, as there's a commission that Pink Cherry will pay us for any sale that you have. So we appreciate your support for the show. So Allison, we're talking today about pornography and whether or not it's bad for your relationship. So originally I had recorded this episode without Allison, but as I was going through it and the more I thought about it, I really wanted Allison to be part of this show because I really think that it's important that we have both of a male and female perspective, because I think it's pretty fair to say people have a lot of opinions, strong opinions too, about porn. Would you agree?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I'm really glad that you did include me in the show, because I do think that it's important to get a perspective of both a male and a female on this, because I do think the thought process on it has shifted over the years, and I'm not sure that everyone is in agreement with that.
Yeah, and I think we can also say safely that traditionally men are known for consuming more porn when we compare it to women, right? You think that's a general statement that's accurate?
I think that's a very fair statement, yes.
Okay, and this is why I think it's really the case. I think that women tend to be more audio in what kind of excites them or turns them on, and men tend to be more visual. So I think because of the fact that porn has such a strong visual, I think it tends to cause men to gravitate towards it more than women do. But I also think that over the years, we've really seen women gravitate more towards pornography. And we're going to talk about some numbers later in the show that would support this. But I'm just curious more from, let's throw the statistics out the window for a minute and just look at it from our experience and our own knowledge. How do you think that trend has changed? Do you think women have gravitated more towards it and it's become more acceptable?
Yeah, so to your first point, I do think you're correct that men tend to be more visual. That's something that really tends to get them going, get them excited. And there's a very sexual difference there between men and women. But porn has changed a lot. And I know we've talked before about going into the video store and going into the back corner behind the curtain to get the video. And certainly that was not something that women were ever really known to do. In my experience, it was more of a male thing. But the porn was different then. I mean, the porn acting was very different. The scenes were very different, very cheesy. Pizza man comes to the door and next thing you know, they're going at it on the floor. Where now there's a lot more multiple partners. There's a lot more class to some of the pornography. And I think women are more drawn to that type of porn.
As we said right in the very beginning, a lot of people tend to have strong opinions. And I know that there's probably a lot of people out there that would listen to this show and go, wait a minute, I watch porn. I just can't do that. That's gross to me. And I want to always reiterate this fact, and I know we say this a lot in the shows, right? We're not looking to sell you on porn, just like we're not looking to sell you on pursuing your fantasies or any other topic that we're talking about. But I do think it's important that we keep an open mind about these topics and at least go on a fact-finding mission and talk about how things have changed, because I think so many of us form opinions based on how things used to be, kind of like you were pointing out, Allison, right? You'd go to the video store and do the walk of shame into the back room to get a porno. And, women were probably at that time probably like, you know what, if you want to get the movie, fine, but you're going in by yourself, because there's no way I'm going in front of everybody and walking into that room that everyone knows what's going on. So again, I just want us to keep an open mind to this topic. And maybe at the end of it, you're still going to feel the same way. If you think porn is gross and it's not for you, then fine, you don't have to watch it. But maybe after listening to this show, you're going to go, you know what? Maybe things have changed since I last entertained the thought, or maybe it's just different than the preconceived notions that I've developed about it. And maybe it is time for me to talk to my partner about maybe giving this a try and introducing it into the bedroom and seeing if it just helps create some different excitement for us in the bedroom and offers a little something different. Interesting statistic that we've talked about in previous shows at least a couple of times is the fact that 76% of people are open and want to explore new and different sexual acts with their partner. And Allison and I have talked about this on a previous show, that part of the people that fall within this group are people who are in kind of stagnant relationships where the sex has become kind of routine and kind of predictable. And so some of that excitement in the bedroom has kind of fizzled out over the years, right?
Yeah.
And so adding porn to the mix or adding porn to the bedroom is a great way to really kind of reignite that passion, reignite that fire for couples. And interesting, because we did a whole show on fantasies recently, and we just recently posted that one as well. And in that, we talked about how 30% of couples actually watch porn with their partner. So there's quite a big number of people watching porn. And when you look at the overall industry, it's a huge industry, right? We're talking billions of dollars a year.
Yeah, you think about it too, though. It's so much more accessible now. So you don't have to do that walk of shame into the corner of the video store. It can be, easy as downloading it onto your phone, right? Or through any of the streaming services. I think that's probably also maybe why more women would consider it. That was something that was really not a comfortable situation for a female to have to go into a video store.
So now you can do it and remain anonymous.
Do it and remain anonymous. And I don't know if you have a statistic on this, but I would guess that the women who are watching porn more often do it with their partner. I don't know that women are watching porn alone as much as men are watching porn alone.
I think, yeah, I know we have some numbers in this show and we'll talk about those. And I'm not sure if they actually get into the percentage or number of women that watch it alone. However, I think we would all be shocked at how many women are watching it alone. But I do agree with you. I think for the large majority of the women watching it, it's typically with a partner.
Yeah, and the small number of folks that I polled personally in a personal conversation, the majority were watching with their partner because it was something that they turned them on, or one of their sexual fantasies was in the porn that they were able to view and kind of get excited by watching that. And then I still do have some folks in the circle that are still not interested in porn whatsoever.
Which always brings up an interesting question too, right? And we'll probably be touching on this later, but then you have to ask the question, right? Is it okay to watch it alone? Is that something that's bad? And I don't think it is, but I think like anything, right? There's always a healthy balance of things. But I think sometimes I kind of think that's what masturbation to some level is all about, right? It's like a completely selfish act, right? You don't have to worry about another person, right? The pleasure of another person. And sometimes I think people just enjoy the fact that maybe they'll put on some porn and masturbate because you can watch what appeals to you and just worry about yourself. So just kind of like a selfish moment, I guess. That's kind of how I've always viewed it, where you just do what you like and what feels good to you for a period of time.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not like this thing about making sure that you do X, Y, or Z to your partner and worrying about pleasing them and stuff like that. So, but I guess, we can view that in different ways too.
Yeah, and I do also think that it's not something negative as long as you're communicating with your partner that these things are happening. If you are constantly watching porn alone, is something missing between the two of you that you feel you need to view through pornography?
Right. And I think it can really start to become a problem, like if you are ignoring your partner sexually, right?
Yeah.
And you're favoring watching porn and masturbation over that connection with your partner. That obviously is a problem. I think it can become a problem when people are suddenly not leaving the house. I think that's when we start to cross over into addictions, right? You might have plans with family, maybe friends, and you're like, I can't make it. And the reason you can't make it is because you need to stay home to do that. There's when we start to say, okay, now we've breached something that became a recreational activity, maybe, into something now that's become an addiction.
Yeah, that would be considered unhealthy. And I think it'd be interesting actually at some point to maybe have an additional show about masturbation, because I think there's probably different opinions on that as well. But there is nothing wrong with having that kind of time to yourself, maybe watching a little pornography, having your moment alone. I used to call it a business transaction, right? It's literally just to get to an end goal. It's not about the emotional piece. It's not about love. It's not about any of the other fun stuff that comes with sex. It's just a business transaction. But maybe that's something we'll dive into further another time.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think too, some people even use masturbation as like a stress relief. I think sometimes people are just stressed out, right? And feeling overwhelmed at the time. And I think sometimes it's like, again, just having that selfish moment to yourself can kind of just be like a release of some of that stress for them. And sometimes I know for me, like, if like when it comes to masturbation, I just always thought porn was a great vehicle, like you said, to get you to the end result of that transaction because there's that visual stimulus. We look back at, I think I just, for some reason, 80s movies come into mind for me, but like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, right? Like you would see like they would have scenes of guys playing with themselves, right? And it was always to like a magazine or a poster. And it was like this still photograph. There was just nothing like that never did it for me. I found that like so boring. Like I always needed some kind of stimulus. So I think like whether it's pornography or even like erotic letters, right? A lot erotic stories type thing, right? The old Penthouse Letters magazine, right? Those were all erotic stories. And I think even though you're still using your imagination with the letter, it just paints a better scene for you. And it just allows your imagination to get more vivid than just looking at a picture.
Right.
I just never saw the attraction to a photo.
Yeah, I can appreciate that too.
I think we often hear about when we start talking about pornography, aside from the fact of that's gross, I could never watch it, is you're going to hear people be like, you know what, porn is just, it's like a cancer. It's a virus. It rots your brain. It's bad for you. It's not good for you. And as we just talked a little while ago, if you're ignoring your partner or you're unable to leave the house because you have to masturbate and you're going to pass up time with family and friends, that's a problem. We're talking about watching porn from a responsible porn watcher, right? They have some responsibility there to not take it to a level of addiction. They're doing it, responsibly and how much they're consuming and all of these different things. So I think that's key. We're talking about someone who's in a healthy position watching porn. That's a big difference.
Yeah, and that's the term I would use also, a healthy level.
Yeah, I mean, and you could go on Google right now, right? And you can Google, is watching porn bad for you? And whatever answer you're looking to find, you're going to find.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean,
Yep.
that's
That's how it is.
right. We know we can't believe everything on the internet. The internet's a great source of information. It can be. But there's also a lot of nonsense and bullshit out there. And so we have to be a little discriminatory about what information we consume and what information we go, you know what? I don't know if this is necessarily the most credible piece of information out here. So I think that's important. But we have to keep in mind that if we're looking to find that porn's bad, we can go on Google and find plenty of articles that support that position. And if we want to believe that it's good, we can go on and find those articles too, right? Just
Yeah.
like anything.
Just like anything you do.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing a healthy exercise, running, some people will say, greatest exercise you ever could do is run. Great for your brain, great for your endorphins. Run as long as you want. You can find another article that says running is bad for your knees. Running is bad for your hips. Whatever you do, don't run. So no matter what you're looking for, you can find both sides of the story on any topic. So I agree.
Yeah. And if we listen and find any credibility in sex coaches and sex therapists, they will tell you that there is definitely evidence and studies that have been done to show you that porn watched by couples together has actually increased and improved their overall relationship as well as their sex lives.
Yeah. It gives them a closeness when they're watching it together, right? It's fun. It's exciting. It's something that they're sharing. So if one of the partners is not interested in porn at all and the other one is, and they still want to watch it, are they watching it alone? How's that working? So I would agree with that statistic. That makes sense to me.
All right, so let's talk about a few statistics, right? We kind of alluded to this earlier that we had some of these, and I think some of these become very interesting and start to kind of give us a more clear picture of what's going on with who is watching porn and how much, and kind of gives us a really good overview of porn watching. So we talked earlier that porn is a huge, huge industry, right? Billions of dollars. It's actually $16.9 billion a year that porn does. And it has 40 million regular watchers.
Wow.
That's a big number.
That's a huge number.
Right? I mean, think about billions of dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just humongous. Basically, the evidence and the studies have also said that 10% of the people are addicted to watching porn, right? So 10% of 40 million would roughly be 4 million people, right? Just to kind of put it into a number. And then of those 10% that are addicted, 17% of those are women, which means about 680,000 people who are watching porn are women and they're addicted.
Wow.
So it's 1 in 3 women are watching porn now. So I think that is really telling and kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning with a lot of women, I think, avoided porn, whatever time frame it was, 20, 30 years ago, but now they're much more, invested or, into the world of porn and they're watching it. And so 33% of the people watching it are women. I think that's a huge, huge statistic.
Yeah. I can definitely see a shift that women are not only more interested in it, but it also is more accessible. So I think that is also helping those numbers.
Right. And we had another show just recently that we were talking about. I also think it goes back to the fact that women have grown a lot from a sexual standpoint, right? It used to be the woman was viewed as the good little housewife that stayed home, right? She did whatever around the house, and she wasn't really looked at as a sexual being, right? A person that could have sexual feelings and have sexual desires. And if she expressed those or demonstrated those, she was slut shamed.
Yep.
And now women are much more free to express those feelings without those shames placed upon them, or
the stigmas, the labels.
Stigmas,
yeah. And I couldn't agree with that more, that women have really seen a shift in that area where they're more open, they're more out about it. It's not, it's just changed a lot since that time frame.
Right. I agree. So let's talk about the 3 types of porn viewers that exist. Okay. The first one is considered a compulsive viewer. They watch 110 minutes of porn a week. They are typically men. And when talked about and discussed about their sexual satisfaction, they are found to have lower sexual satisfaction rates compared to the other 2 viewers. So this makes up about 12% of the porn viewers are these compulsive viewers that are watching 110 minutes per week. And again, it's typically men. So we're not really seeing women get to the compulsive aspect, which is good, right? I mean, it's always good when we don't see anyone getting to the compulsive, but it's going to happen. The second one is called the distressed viewer, and this makes up 13%. So just about equal with the compulsive. they watch, this is what I find really interesting, right? So the compulsive was 110 minutes per week. The distressed viewer is 17 minutes per week. So a huge decrease in how much porn they're actually watching. And the distressed person is basically someone who is watching porn out of an associated emotional distress. So maybe they were victims of rape or abuse, right, from their childhood or past. And so there's some kind of association with the stress that puts them into this category.
Interesting. And I'm glad that number is relatively low because that's pretty sad.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, you're thinking, right, people who were in some sort of traumatic situation,
Yeah.
right? A traumatic sexual situation. And then we have the third and final category, which is the recreational, which is where the majority of people fall. As a matter of fact, 75% of the people watching porn fall in this recreational category. They watch 24 minutes a week on average, and it is mainly women and couples. So that's another interesting part. And when asked about their sexual satisfaction, it was much higher than the average couple, right? So we can see what we were talking about earlier, right? As far as if you're watching too much and you have an addiction, then you are probably the person that's going to have a low, sexual satisfaction. But if you're, just watching it with your partner, you guys are watching it together and 24 minutes a week, that's what it averages out to be, right? There's going to be some weeks you don't watch it, other weeks you do, whatever. Couples have a higher sexual satisfaction. So I think that speaks to the fact that what these therapists were saying is that couples can have a healthier sex life and a healthier relationship with porn being introduced into it.
Yep. I think that's one of the things we've talked about in a couple of shows is that it's something that can really spice up the bedroom scene. It can spice up your life sexually. Doesn't take it over. It's a short amount of time each week. So we'll say 24 minutes a week. Is that what you said?
24 minutes a week for the recreational viewer. Yeah.
Okay, so 24 minutes a week. So say an hour, you could watch 1 hour show once a month with your partner. It makes sense because that is the type of situation that we kind of talked about from the beginning, that it's something that's used to add to your relationship, not to distract from it, not to take it over, but just to add to what you currently have.
Right. That's a really good point. It's just kind of, I always like the word enhance, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about doing something that enhances your relationship or enhances your sex life, but it's not consuming it. And I think those are two really strong words when we start talking about topics like pornography. There's a big difference between consuming something and enhancing something. And of course, the other battles or the other debates that are always going to occur with porn, right, is that, oh, well, it's so women, aggressive, and, women are constantly treated like sexual objects, and they're, it's very abusive to women. And I do think, we've talked about this too in previous shows, I do agree that porn used to be like that.
Yeah.
And I think when we say used to be like that, I think like mainstream porn, like pretty much every porn video that you watched was kind of more like that. Women were very much treated as sexual objects. And of course, it still happens today. I think it's kind of something that's kind of the nature of the beast. It's kind of what goes hand in hand with what we're looking at, sex, right? We're looking at sex on the screen, and with most of the viewers being men, women are going to be a little bit objectified, right? That's just what's going to happen. But I do think it's gotten much, much better. And I think we can also look at the fact, like you were alluding to, Allison, is that porn has changed a lot from how it was in the past. There are so many more genres and types of porn these days, and we can talk about humiliation. We mentioned this in the other video. There's videos that are going to degrade women, and there's going to be videos that degrade men. There's going to be videos that degrade pretty much anyone out there. Anyone that falls into a certain class, category, whatever, however you want to phrase it, there's going to be those types of videos out there that degrades them. And so that now exists across the board, but you don't have to watch that anymore. Like, there's just not one type of porn that you have to choose from anymore.
Right. There's unlimited varieties. And I would think that the types of porn that you and I have watched together, or that I have experienced most recently in the last couple of years, is more porn that's focused on one or two women with two or more men. So it's heavily on the man side versus the female side, but the women are enjoying themselves immensely. So the women are the center of the porn. So in the past, you would sort of see it more like the women were there to please the man, where I believe that so many of the porn sites now, the videos, the streaming, and whatever you view is much more geared towards pleasing the female.
Right. And I think that probably somewhat goes hand in hand with us talking about how women have become more recognized as having sexual feelings and sexual desires.
Yeah.
And so now we have porn that supports that. So now a woman can be in that situation where she is the one being the center of attention, being the center of the pleasure, right? And really she's using them for the pleasure, right?
Right.
It used to be they were using her, or in the porn, the woman was being used for the man's pleasure.
Right.
I mean, of course, the men are getting pleasure in these scenes, right? That goes without saying. But to your point, now she's the center of attention, and like she's the center of the universe, and everyone is pleasing her. And really, I feel like she has the power now.
That's the exact word that just popped into my mind as you were saying that, is that whether or not she's in some type of less dominant role in the porn or not, she still holds the power. She is the one being pleased by oftentimes more than one man.
Right.
Good
right.
for her.
Yeah. I mean, it really is interesting, you know, and if we kind of go back to the stats, I apologize because I was sure that I actually wrote this down, but it was interesting that when asked about women and their search history in Google, most admit to being very secretive about it because they are watching porn. So there's still that. I think everybody will probably have that, like, oh my God, like, unless you're open about it with your partner, right? Like, oh yeah, I've watched porn or whatever, you know. I mean, if they know that, like, that's something that you've done or that you do, it's fine. Who cares, right? I mean, again, as long as you're keeping those responsible, healthy porn watching, I don't know what you want to call it exactly. I don't know what we refer to it as, but those practices, I guess, I think all's good. But I still think, like, if you're not being open and honest with your partner, right, you're going to be hiding all this stuff. And then, like, are we just supposed to believe, like, we're sitting here looking at these stats, right? Obviously, there's people watching porn, but there's a lot of people out there that will deny it to the day that they die because they're so afraid of the ramifications that come with admitting it.
Yeah. And I don't think that's just females. I think that's men as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. That it's just they don't want their potentially new partner to think that they're, a perv or
A deviant.
in any way, shape, or form. And I mean, you did run through the numbers, and there are some people that many people that view this at a very unhealthy level, right? And we've talked about this before too, is that there's a lot of lonely people out there, right? And there's a lot of people in sexless relationships. So they are getting turned on or able to meet their own needs in these other ways, right? But I think for the most part, most people that watch it are healthy. And we've talked before about being completely open with your partner about fantasies or other things sexually related that are important to you, likes, dislikes, that kind of thing. And I would think pornography would be the same thing. You love this person, you care about this person, whether it's a new relationship or a long-standing relationship, you need to support them and not shame someone or make them feel bad or reject them because they may choose to watch porn, especially if it's at a healthy level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's just the reality of life. And like you said, we have experience between us with sexless relationships. And I would much rather see someone turn to watching some porn than going out and being, betray their partner by having an affair to meet their sexual needs. I mean, even if you're in a sexless relationship, regardless of the problems that you have going on in the relationship, I still don't think there's any way that we can justify infidelity in a relationship, right? We still have to be, we still have to answer to ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And that should mean something, right? You still want to be able to look at yourself in the mirror every day and go, you know what? This is a horrible relationship. My sexual needs aren't being met, but I did the right thing, right? By not going out and betraying my partner and having this affair or sleeping with someone else to get these needs met. Okay, so I watched some porn to do that. All right, well, big deal. You're not hurting anybody, right?
Right.
This is you and your space and your time. And if that's what you need to do to work through your issues with your partner and have your sexual needs met, then so be it. But at least you're not hurting anybody.
Right. And, we always promote communication and making sure you're always open and honest with each other, even when it's tricky subjects. And this is one of them, right? But I do believe that there could be situations where partner's nervous to tell the other partner they're interested in porn. There's been, opinions expressed over time that it's not healthy or it's disgusting or whatever, but they agree to watch it together once, kind of one partner giving in for the other partner just for the sake of the relationship. And then guess what? They end up enjoying it too, because it's not what they think it was. They have the stigma or that view of what it is when it's not. There's just so many different versions of it. And if you don't like it, then okay. And if it's not for you, then okay. But there's a lot of people that I think just have the old fashioned views of it and haven't given an opportunity with the new types of porn that are available.
Yeah. And don't let, like you said, your old thoughts or your old fashioned thoughts about porn kind of suffocate what could be a great experience and something that's really good for your relationship now. Again, just by giving it a try doesn't mean that you're committing to having to watch it again or that you have to watch it every day or every week. But opening your mind to it and opening your heart and your mind to your partner without being judgmental or rejecting them because of the fact that that's something that they get enjoyment out. Again, we talk a lot too, right? Your partner we talked about this with the fantasies, right? You can have a fantasy. I can have a fantasy. We don't have to like each other's fantasies. We don't have to agree with them. We don't have to do anything with them except respect them, right? Because we can't control. I mean, we are people and we can't really necessarily control what appeals to us. Sometimes things just appeal to us and we don't know why. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. But I think people get so worried about porn and fantasies, and they think that if it, for some reason, if it becomes something that is said out loud and it becomes a conversation, that somehow changes the landscape of the relationship. Like, oh shit, they're going to want to go out now. They're going to tell me this fantasy and they're going to want to go out tomorrow and try this in real life. And I'm not ready for that. Right. And I think people think that a lot of times and forget that what a fantasy is, right? It's just a thought. It's just an image of something that is sexually arousing to you. And many times, and we've talked about this a lot too, people don't act on their fantasies. It lives in their head. It lives between you and your partner, and you do things to explore that fantasy, and that can be really exciting and fulfilling. And other times people do go out and live out their fantasies and regret it because it was like such a huge letdown because of like, this is nothing like I thought it would be.
Yep.
All right, guys, I think that's where we are going to end today's show. I hope you've kind of learned a lot about today's show. It's maybe opened your eyes and your mind to some different thoughts or opinions when it comes to pornography and whether or not it's good or bad for you. Obviously, we talked about a lot of statistics that show both men and women are watching porn. Matter of fact, most of it is made up of women and couples when we talk about those recreational statistics, right? The 75%. And I want you to take away too, again, the really important part of that statistic is that these people who are watching it recreationally, I should say, not just recreational, but these people are experiencing a higher level of sexual satisfaction. So obviously, we can prove that there is a benefit to introducing porn and bringing it into the relationship in a way that's right for you guys as individuals and as a couple. So I hope you get that takeaway today. I hope you found this interesting. Don't forget to head down to the show notes where you can join the private Facebook group for the Love and Sex podcast. Pick up your book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. And while we're talking about sex and spicing things up in the bedroom, head over to Pink Cherry, where you can use the link that I've provided to pick up some interesting little items to play with in the bedroom. Other than that, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for stopping by. Until the next episode, everyone just be safe and be kind.